Good morning. Wake up, wake your ass up. It is August the 18th, 2021, and we are back. Wake up with Ray G, myself, Jordan Richards. Good morning to you all watching the show. Let me make sure I got the mic on. Yeah, I got the right mic. We're good to go. I hope you all are doing well. Thanks for joining us this morning. Jordan, I told myself yesterday after yesterday's show, I just jump into this thing, start talking about sports. And I do not always ask you right off the bat, how are you doing this morning? And I've got to do a better job of that. So, Jay, how are you this morning, my friend?
I'm great. I am waking up with Ray G, which is always good. You know, one of my best friends, Ray
Yeah.
GQ.
Yeah,
Happy
man.
to be here, man. Really excited. And yeah, I appreciate you asking me. You know, we really jumped into the news. It was our first breaking news. That was pretty exciting. But, you know, we can kind of get into the regular flow of things and take things easy and let the people in slow rather than just jumping into it like we did yesterday.
Yeah, and dude, because we do this every day, I just get kind of confused sometimes of what the hell we talked about yesterday opposed to the day before or the weekend before. But yesterday we just ran through all the preseason games because today and we weren't even on Monday, so I'm thinking like today's Tuesday, but it's actually Wednesday. But we ran through all the preseason games yesterday, just our takeaways and our thoughts. But we had a lot of news fly in yesterday from different sports, and particularly the NBA. So, do you want to just go ahead and get into that, dog?
Wake up! This is the morning run.
Run, Forrest, run!
Right. So the NBA released their Christmas Day schedule yesterday, and we were in a group chat, Jay, and you were kind of like, I don't know if you were really feeling the schedule, if there was something that was bothering you. But just a quick rundown: we've got Knicks, Hawks, Celtics, Bucks, Warriors, Suns, Nets, Lakers, and then the Mavericks and the Utah Jazz kind of round out the Christmas Day slate. So and that's on a Sunday, right? So they'll be competing with some NFL teams as well, right? I think it's what is it, Browns, Packers, and who else is playing on that day, man? It's Browns, Packers, and somebody else. I know we just talked
The
about it.
Colts and somebody.
Colts and somebody. Yes, me personally, who do you think is going to dominate the views? Is it the NBA Christmas slate or is it the NFL?
Well, it's interesting because you do have Bucks, like the Bucks obviously playing, but it's the Lakers Nets. Like I don't know. So it's the Colts and the Cardinals is the other game. So the 4 o'clock game is
Colts,
the Browns
Cardinals.
and Packers. Colts Cardinals. I don't see how the Colts Cardinals can ever possibly top the viewership that's going to be on the Nets Lakers game, which is also playing at 8 o'clock. The afternoon slate, we'll see. Like Celtics Bucks is I believe at 2 o'clock, and then you have the Warriors and the Suns. We'll see kind of what happens with that. Obviously, with Clay coming back, it makes the Warriors a bit more appealing. Steph, obviously, massive draw. But I do think that the Browns-Packers will probably be the bigger game as far as sports-wide. But I don't see how anybody can compete with Nets-Lakers. That is an NBA dream. When
Yeah,
you just,
yeah.
it's the headline game. There's no point of burying the lead there.
Yeah.
The storylines, the conflicts, the amount of players who played on the same teams together, like there's just tons of storylines to dive into when you talk about just that one game. And it's funny, it always makes me laugh when I see the Christmas schedule because the NBA just stacks it. Like getting a Christmas Day game is a big deal.
Yeah.
But the NBA just completely stacks the schedule. They do whatever they want. They don't care about anything else. We're doing Nets Lakers. We want 50 million viewers. It may be the highest viewed game all year if the Nets and Lakers don't make the finals. Is there any other games that kind of interest you that you're going to watch, or is it kind of just like a lot of people are saying it's all just Nets Lakers?
I think I am intrigued by the Warriors Suns, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Anytime they're on TV, honestly, you've got to watch them. And then Chris Paul, Devin Booker, I think that's a good matchup. Celtics Bucks, not so much. I think the Knicks Hawks would be fun, at the beginning of the day, but that comes on at what, probably like 11, 12. I'm probably going to be
Yeah.
in prime like Christmas dad mode at that point, opening gifts and playing with the kids. So it'll probably be on. And for me, man, like since we're on Christmas, I don't know how anybody else out there feels, but for me, bro, like I binge watch A Christmas Story. It's my all-time favorite Christmas movie.
Wow.
I know everything that's going to happen. I get it. He's going to shoot his eye out. This tongue stuck to the pole, like Flick doing that. Ralphie. I just love A Christmas Story. So Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, my TV is on TBS, TNT, and I'm just watching A Christmas Story. I think it's one of the best Christmas movies. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's overrated, but it's nostalgia for me. And Brent, given the fact that you were born in like '96, I'm pretty sure you've never even seen A Christmas Story, have you?
I don't. I was actually born in '93, so I'm a little bit older than you give me credit for.
Oh,
But I could not tell you what happens. I've probably seen A Christmas Story, but I
you've
couldn't tell you
never
what
seen A
happens.
Christmas Story?
I don't recall it. It's not that I don't. It's not that I've never seen it. I don't recall it. I
Oh
couldn't tell
boy.
you what happens. But I'm not a big Christmas movie guy, so it's not really anything big for me. But I think to your point, with the Hawks and the Knicks, that'll be a really interesting game because it's like I don't know if it's in MSG or not. I forgot to look up. I don't know if you know if it's in MSG or not. But if it is in MSG,
Probably.
it'll be the first time Trey going back to MSG after he shrugged his shoulder on all the Knicks fans, told them to go shove it, all that stuff. Like that'll be pretty funny. And then there's a few people commenting saying it'll be a big high scoring game. I don't know, man. Like the Knicks defense is really good with Nate McMillan re-signing with the Hawks. They'll be really good on defense. I'm really intrigued to see those kind of teams. They match up really well. That series in the playoffs was an excellent series as far as just like basketball goes, and not something that I think anyone expected going in to the NBA season with how good the Hawks did and kind of overachieved in some ways, but also kind of just got their shit together. You know, they have a ton of talent. But like the other thing though that you said is that you're not liking Celtics Bucks. That could be a really good game. Whenever they kind of whenever they get together, it's a good game.
I don't even know. I mean, Jason Tatum. I'm being disrespectful. All right, they got Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Reed Up. Who do they have?
Jalen Brown
Jalen Brown. Yeah, I mean,
got back Al Horford.
yeah. I mean, I'm looking at these title odds, right? So I didn't know that the Nets were favored over the Lakers, especially after all those moves. But the Nets are plus 240 and the Lakers are plus 400 to
Yes.
win the NBA title. So I'm assuming those are the second best odds. And the reigning NBA champs, the Milwaukee Bucks, 9-1, plus 900 to win the title. Why? I'm trying to understand, like, is there like an asterisk next to the Bucks championship? Like, is that disrespectful? Are the Lakers better than the Bucks right now? I mean, Giannis, Drew Holiday, Middleton, and then didn't they lose a kid that was pretty good early in the season? Dante DiVincenzo. Like he was a solid role player,
Pretty
right?
good player, yeah.
Yeah, pretty solid, right? They lost him. He'll be back. I'm just wondering why their title odds are so damn low.
Well, I think honestly the biggest thing with the Bucks is that they didn't have to beat the Nets or the Lakers to win the championship, you know? Like as much as we want to, and even for me, like I don't want to discredit what they did. What they did was spectacular. They played great. Obviously Giannis was all-time great in the finals. But they beat the Suns, you know? Like they didn't beat the Lakers, they didn't beat even the Clippers. If the Clippers were like really good, they didn't beat the Warriors when the Warriors were really good. So it's not fraudulent, but they didn't beat one of the teams that we consider one of the top teams in the West. Like the Lakers are probably by far the best team in the West right now. That's kind of just what odds are telling us. Maybe they're not the best team. Maybe they are the best team. It depends on who you ask. But with all that star power, they better be the favorites, right? They got Russell Westbrook. They got Anthony Davis. They got LeBron James.
Yeah,
You know, they got Carmelo Anthony. I almost forgot about him.
Carmelo,
And I believe the Bucks brought in Grayson Allen from Memphis, another good perimeter shooter, defends really well at Duke. Decent role player, but again, can kind of fill in those on the wing like DiVincenzo if he got hurt or Connaughton who had to fill in. So for me, I think it's pretty fair. You know, they could be slightly better odds. I don't think they're better than the Nets or the Lakers. So from that standpoint, like the chances of them coming out of the East they're already underdogs to do that. You know what I mean?
You see Stone's comment. He said Staples Center will be sponsored by the AARP this year. All those cats are old as shit, man. But I'm a Lakers fan, so I'm excited. Now, what isn't fair, the Joker. First MVP not to get a Christmas Day game since the NBA went to what? Like the NBA 5 games in 2008. Like, what do you think about the disrespect for the Joker not getting a Christmas Day game? Like 5 games and you couldn't figure out a way to get the reigning NBA MVP on TV. And it's not like Denver stinks, right? Like I'm not sure. Is Murray projected to be back by Christmas? Probably not, right? He's probably won't come back until
Probably
not until to the playoffs. But what are your thoughts on the Joker not getting a game on Christmas Day?
Honestly, I'm kind of fine with it. I don't have any ill will. I love Joker, but that team is not very good without Murray. And not to say that Murray's a massive difference maker, but he makes them a little bit better. He makes them more of a title contender, Western Conference contender. The rest of them, they're fine. Like, they have a decent team. I don't know if Aaron Gordon's still going to be there, or whether or not he's on an expiring contract and all that stuff. But regardless, I don't think it makes them, anything great. Like, I know people were kind of complaining because the Jazz are there. It's not Zion. It's not, another big time player. But the Jazz were they were the number one seed in the West last year. That's not a mistake. They're a great team. They're maybe not the sexiest team to watch, but they're a great team. And they're going to go against Luka. They're going to give Luka fits. They've had some great games against the Dallas Mavericks, and we'll kind of see what happens with the Mavs. They're kind of in flux right now. Luka obviously getting that $200 million extension, which is great for him, great for the Mavs. Yeah, big money. But I do think that it's fine, especially with Murray not being there. I would love to see the Jazz play the Nuggets because they're really, really good. Kind of even stemming back from when they played in the bubble, that was like a big series when it was Donovan Mitchell versus Jamal Murray. So I would be excited to see that. But like you said, with Murray probably not being back until a little bit later in the year, if he comes back at all, I think it's fine to leave Denver off. It's just a funny stat, kind of a slight at Jokic for winning MVP, but still not being able to make a Christmas game.
Yeah, man. And sticking with the basketball theme, I think we talked about this on the very first episode, but we talked about the dad and we talked about LeVar Ball being the prophet, right? Because all his sons are like in the NBA and doing pretty well. I mean, LiAngelo trying to make a push for the NBA. But there was some news that broke yesterday that LaMelo Ball is being featured in the September issue of GQ magazine. And like I said, LiAngelo Ball is doing his thing in the Summer League. Lonzo just got a 4-year, $80 million deal with the Chicago Bulls. It has been a very good month to be a Ball. It has been a very, very good month to be a Ball. And, right now, I've got buddies. I grew up in Las Vegas, man. So one of my best friends, he's a sound engineer at the Thomas and Mack Center. So he's at every NBA Summer League game, working the games. And he says it's insane how many people are trying to get in the building to see LiAngelo Ball. And I know we have been going back and forth about this. And was there a prop yesterday, a line that it was, what were the odds that we talked about yesterday for LiAngelo Ball playing an NBA game for the Charlotte Hornets? It was like,
I believe it was minus 150 was the line.
Minus 150. And you asked me before the show, you're like, dude, what are his numbers, right? So, I mean, if you really look at it, he's averaging 9.6 points per game in 17 minutes. The three scorers ahead of him, 9.8 points a game, and then two have 10. So he's right there, like for the second leading scorer, tied with a group of three for the second leading scorer on this team, while averaging significantly less minutes than the guy ahead of him, and then the leading scorer who's averaging 16 points. I think LiAngelo Ball is going to make the roster. Whether that be, I do think he's good enough to be a bench player. And I'm not even saying a rotational player, but a bench guy, right? That if shit hits the fan and he needs to go in there for a couple of minutes, he can jack up a couple of threes. He's got the size. He looks like he's been working on his game. And the thing that I liked about LiAngelo Ball is the whole time he's been preparing, like he wants to play in the NBA. You know how some people are like, I want to play. I train a little bit. Like he's actually like working. He wants to get on an NBA team. But I think he's going to make the roster. And whether he sticks, whether he becomes anything significant, I don't know, man. I mean, he hasn't really done anything else. He's not rebounding. He doesn't get a lot of assists. He's just a shooter, right? Like, that's what he does. He shoots the ball. I think he's going to have to work on some other areas of his game. But what are your thoughts on LiAngelo Ball and just sort of the summer of ball right now with him in Summer League playing pretty well, man?
Yeah, it's funny because LiAngelo was kind of always the ugly stepchild. He's obviously one of their brothers, but he was never the guy. He was never even, honestly, one of the better players. He actually did go to UCLA with Lonzo, but when he was there, he was more of an undersized power forward who could shoot. He was never really known as this wing player that he kind of is now. So to see his game develop, that's definitely been really encouraging just to kind of see the way he's grown. But again, if you're playing against Lonzo and LaMelo in the offseason, you should probably get pretty good over time. And you think about playing against those talents, like Lonzo's no slouch either. He just got $80 million this offseason. So to play against those boys, it's definitely different from most guys' experiences and trying to grow into their NBA career. As far as his actual prospects, I don't know. Like, he's kind of a decent defender, probably at best now. He's slowly improving. That's what's going to get him on the roster ultimately. If he's, a lights out shooter, then maybe, like you mentioned, he's shooting about 35%, which is fine. But if you're not playing great defense, then it's not going to be great for you. I'm sure he's growing as a defender. Again, guarding those boys is going to help you a lot. I'm kind of iffy on it. I could see him playing for Charlotte, and I know you made a good point. Like, he's probably not going to play for another team the same way Tim Tebow wasn't going to play for another team other than Jacksonville. Not trying to make those same comparisons because LiAngelo is actually a trained basketball player. He's still young. He still has plenty of room to grow. But I do see a scenario where there's really only the chance he's going to play for Charlotte, more than likely. Keep the two ball boys together and keep growing. I think he can make a G League team. I don't know if he's going to necessarily make an NBA team, though. But you never know. He's playing pretty well, and if the coaches like him, maybe they will bring him along for the team. They don't have the best roster in the world, so they might as well take a chance and probably sell a few extra tickets with LiAngelo.
Yeah, and that's the point that I was going to make, and I'm not sure how that works in the NBA with, like, doing stuff for ticketing and marketing promotion standpoints, but if LiAngelo was on the roster for the Hornets, right, I mean, that's marketing gold for those two ball boys on the Hornets. So I don't know how all of that factors in. I guess to a certain degree it all factors in. But, the summer of ball, LaMelo doing his thing, NBA Rookie of the Year, Lonzo with a massive deal. LaMelo, when his time comes, he's probably, if he continues to play the way that he played this season, he's going to get a max deal, right? Like, we can pretty much pencil that in. If he has another good season, continues to develop his game, he's going to get a max contract as well. So just listen, LeVar talked it. He talked his shit, and his boys are bailing him out and backing him up. So I just love to see that. But let's transition to the NFL. Let's talk football. And, I tweeted something a couple of days ago, man, because I'm on Twitter, and I'm watching everybody just, if it's a player that they touted, if it was a player that they liked going into the draft, it's all about that player, right? And if there was a player that they didn't like or they didn't tout or they had reservations on, then anything that player did, like, it just, they're critical. Everybody was just confirming their biases, right? Like, I just want to talk about the players that I like and confirm my priors. And I was like, what are we doing here? Like, are we doing this show? Do we do all the shit that we do, bro? Like, everything that we do, from podcasts to videos to live streams to private discords, all of this stuff, we don't do it for us. Like, I don't do this so I can lay in the bed and look at myself on the YouTube channel, or I don't even listen to my own pod. Like, I don't do it for me. We do this to provide some sort of actionable opinions for other people to take those opinions and formulate what they're going to do. It's not about us, right? It's not about me being right. Damn it, if I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I have no issue saying I was wrong. But all I saw this past weekend was just confirming priors. No analysis, nothing actionable, just my guy, look at me, victory lap, whatever you want to call it. I don't like doing that, man. I don't. I try to be objective, but I'm just telling you right now, I am confirming priors. I am not being objective. I am pot calling the kettle black, throwing stones in a glass house. I don't give a damn either. I don't care, because Jalen Reagor right now is looking good. And y'all all know for those of y'all that don't know, I actually know him. Like, I know Jalen Reagor. So there is a personal, little bit attachment to him. Like, when you know somebody, you don't want to just dog them out when they're not playing well. But the fact of the matter is, last season, he didn't play well. He didn't play well for his first round draft capital status. He didn't play well for being this number one wide receiver for Philadelphia. Philly didn't play well, period. Like, that whole team was an absolute mess. And to compound his troubles that he brought on himself for injury or just non-performance, the player that was selected immediately after him had the greatest wide receiver season for a rookie in the history of the NFL. Just an unfortunate set of circumstances. Maybe if he was drafted 11 or wherever the hell Henry Ruggs got picked at, it would have been better. But getting picked one spot before Justin Jefferson, that just sucks, right? But right now, he is looking damn good. Like, he's making ridiculous catches, and it's not just like the one-off highlight catch. It's when you're stringing these things together. And I've talked about this, like, how do you sift through noise and nonsense and really try to find something actionable from practice, from training camp, from mini camp, from preseason? It's when players, not just Jalen Reagor, but when players string together multiple positive days, multiple positive performances. And we've seen this so many times. Let's go back years ago. Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz was a wide receiver, I believe, out of UMass. I believe that's where he came from. And during this preseason, Victor Cruz wore number 3, was salsa dancing in the end zone, had all the black folks taking salsa class. I went and took a salsa club. My black ass was out there trying to cha-cha and do all of that because of Victor Cruz, and I'm not even a Giants fan. But what he did that entire preseason was string together good game after good game after good game. And what ended up happening, he got an opportunity to get on the field, and when he did that, he was really, really, really good for a long time. Right now, it seems like whether that was because they drafted Devontae Smith, Nick Sirianni got in his ass, whatever the case may be, Quez Watkins stepping up his game, Reagor has been balling out in practice, and that's all you can ask for is for a player to play fast and a player to play with confidence. Now, is he or will he end up being this number 1 wide receiver for the team? I don't think so, man, but I do think he's going to be a productive weapon for the Eagles, and I want to hear your thoughts on him, man.
So Jalen Reagor went up, rose up, soared up over one of my Patriots. So that was fun. You know, that's always great. But when you talk about raw athleticism with Jalen Reagor, it's pretty astounding to really see just how good this kid can be. And like you talked about with Victor Cruz, it's about building momentum, right? He really had a lot of troubles last year. Carson Wentz is throwing picks left and right. There's a lot of things that just weren't going the right direction for the Eagles. So now you come back and you start over, right? They have Nick Sirianni. They have Jalen Hurts for a full off season. Starting to come back together, starting to really gain this momentum. Jalen Reagor's making plays. First preseason game, runs a sick out route, completely obliterates the corner, catches it, no problem. Twitter goes crazy. He goes one-handed catch over someone in practice, people going crazy. Then he does it again this week. We're going to see him tomorrow against the Pats again. And I'm really intrigued to see what he does because it's going to be crazy. Like, I think he's really building this momentum to potentially be that, like, not just decent or solid, but like a really good wide receiver too for that Eagles offense. Devontae Smith is going to be the wide receiver 1. He's legit. Like, he can run all the routes. He can beat anybody. He's got deep speed. People can be concerned about his weight. We are not at all. He can always gain weight as he kind of progresses through his NFL career, but his skill set is alpha-like. You know, he can be that number 1, receive that large target share. But Reagor can be his number 2 easily. Reagor can do everything that he needs done to complement Devontae Smith. They can run similar routes. They can do similar things. Very similarly athletic. I would say that Devontae Smith is just a slightly better route runner and a better separator. But outside of that, they have a lot of similarities. Reagor's more of a bruiser. He can run after the catch. He can do a lot in the screen game. Yeah. And then you still have Quez Watkins, right? Quez Watkins looks excellent. So that trio is just speed, and just going to overwhelm you, I think, if they actually get clicking throughout this season.
You know what's crazy is Philadelphia went from this team with like no receivers, right? They were rolling out Travis Fulgham, Greg Ward, and Jalen Reagor playing at the X, which even if you go back to TCU, he did play outside some, but he was really dominant at the slot, get him the ball on the screen plays and let him do damage after the catch. And there were a ton of NFL draft analysts, fantasy who were bullish on Reagor. And the fact and the reality is, I don't think he's a number 1, right? I don't believe that. And we had this conversation yesterday, and we're not going to get into it today because we were like, well, what is an alpha? Who is an alpha? Like, how many alphas are really in the NFL? And we'll talk about this later. But I don't think he's that. right? Like maybe I thought he had a chance to do that, but if he was going to do that or show that, it would have been nice to see that last season. And by them drafting Devontae Smith, I think that's sort of just that era is over. So if you're thinking about for fantasy purposes or just betting or just your team, I don't think he's that. It's Devontae Smith. Now, the interesting thing is Quez Watkins is looking like he's going to be that deep vertical threat. Like replace Alshon Jeffrey with Quez Watkins. I think you've got an upgrade because he's got size, but he's got legitimate home run threat ability. I just this offense, at least the receiving core, the pass catching weapons with Goddard, Reagor, Watkins, and Smith, it went from a glaring weakness to what looks like it could be a strength of that offense. And this only bodes well for Jalen Hurts. And, I don't remember what his over-under passing touchdown total was. God, was it 20? Was it 20 and a half for Hurts touchdown passes?
Yeah, 20 and a half.
I mean, bro.
It's looking good.
It looks good. And I know we were like waffling back and forth on that, but it looks a lot better today than it did when we talked about the Eagles last Thursday or Wednesday. I love it, man. And again, maybe not the wide receiver one that we expected him to be, but I think he can be a version of like Jarvis Landry, right? Who just, they get the targets, they do their thing, they're consistent, wide receiver 2 for a franchise. I think he's on that path. So, but here's what has to happen. Practice has to translate to the game. We have to see it in the game. He had 2 for 20 last game. He had a drop, but it's got to translate. And we always talk about with wide receivers, targets are earned. I think he's earned some targets for tomorrow's game, right? So we are all going to be watching very closely because I do think the starters are at least going to play a quarter, right? At least a quarter of NFL action. So that's fun to see. Now, we all got a bit of a scare yesterday when Mapletron himself went down, was carried off of the field. Chase Claypool injured in practice. They're saying it's a minor ankle sprain. I saw some other medical professionals say it could be a high ankle sprain, but there's no reason to worry because we've got 3 weeks until week 1 and he's going to be fine. If it is a high ankle sprain, I'm very concerned. If it's just a regular ankle sprain, not as concerned. But for me, and we haven't gotten to Pittsburgh's team preview yet, I think the leading receiver is going to be Deontay Johnson. And then I think Juju Smith-Schuster probably has more receptions, more targets. Claypool may have more yards as the downfield threat, but I think it's Deontay Johnson. I think he is going to lead this team in receptions, receiving yards. I don't know about the touchdowns. Juju gets a lot of touchdowns, or I think he has an opportunity to score a lot. But I think Deontay Johnson is the wide receiver 1 for Pittsburgh. So we want Claypool to be healthy. Hopefully it is something minor. Any thoughts on Claypool, that injury, and that Pittsburgh Steelers passing attack?
I think you nailed the hat on the head, right? Like it's a high ankle sprain. And no matter what we want to kind of believe in our minds about what the doctors say, and it's minor and it's fine, he's got time. High ankle sprains are not good. They linger. They take a lot of time to recover. And we've seen it in the past with lots of guys. Saquon Barkley, perfect example. He, was looking great. High ankle sprain, tried to come back. I believe he came back in like 2 weeks, and he just wasn't the same. Like, yeah, we want to see these guys back, but we want to see them healthy. We don't want to see them limbering. We don't want to see them concerned about their ankle. We want to see them fully healthy. And the fact that Claypool has a high ankle sprain, that's just not great. It's just not. And like you said, it's probably better for Juju.
I don't know if it's a high ankle sprain. They're saying it's minor. I don't know if it's a high. I'm not putting that out there. If it is, I don't know that.
Yeah, those are the reports, though. The reports where it was a high ankle sprain or more than likely a high ankle sprain. So that's kind of the issue is that if, like you said, if it's a regular ankle sprain, we've seen guys come back and be fine. But high ankle sprains, they linger. For a guy who's more of a deep threat, I don't know how that affects him. Maybe he's not running as crisp routes. Maybe he can kind of just, run posts, run digs, things like that. I don't know kind of how that all works with the ankle. But at least he's not a running back where he's cutting like crazy, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I'm okay with it. But I'm all aboard Deontay wide receiver 1. I've been there since last year. I think we're going to see it again this year for sure. Juju could be the 2, but like you said, it's probably Juju for receptions, Claypool for yards, even considering Claypool's health.
So just real quick, who would you rather have, Deontay Johnson or Chase Claypool?
It's Deontay Johnson, man. Like, this is the year. This is the year where we're going to see him either be great or him be kind of decent again, and then the Steelers are going to make a decision and probably go to Claypool. But I think with the high ankle sprain, with everything going on, I believe Diontae Johnson was 7th in the NFL in targets last year. 7th in the NFL. Targets per game, not total targets. That's a lot. Like, that's a team that has a lot of faith in him, and we know that Ben already really likes Diontae Johnson. So I think from that standpoint, he'll easily be the wide receiver 1 this year. With the Claypool injury, it only strengthens that case for me.
All right, so here go their lines. Regular season receiving yard over under. Juju Smith-Schuster, 790.5. Chase Claypool, 875.5. Diontae Johnson, I think it was 950.5. So they've got, odds makers have it, Diontae, Claypool, Juju all separated in total by maybe 200 yards.
Yeah.
You know? It's a lot of I'm just trying to do the math here in my head. I mean, that's damn near, it's pushing, close to 2,600 yards between the 3 receivers. You add in another 400 from Najee. Yeah, I don't know.
Looking good for Ben.
Yeah, looking good for Ben. Ben, you better hope Ben plays all season. But last piece of NFL news yesterday, and we talked about this on the show before the news broke, but Tim Tebow was released by the Jaguars. You talked about the play, the bad blocking, and it was a mess. He got cut, man. He got cut, and he should have probably not even been on the team in the first place because he's not a tight end. Were you shocked that Tim Tebow was released by Jacksonville yesterday?
No, I was more shocked that Urban Meyer watches Wake Up with Ray G. Like, it was honestly almost immediately after the show ended. We're just talking about Tim Tebow. You light him on fire. Probably 10, 20 minutes later, Tim Tebow's released by the Jaguars. Like, I'm sure it was coming, but the fact that we talked about it on the show, and we talked about it a lot, like, you really went in on Tim Tebow. And it's just like, and you even tweeted it out, Urban Meyer, thanks for watching the show. Appreciate you tuning in. It's just, but he did look that bad. Like, he really did. And we don't need to pile on Tim Tebow. I hope he goes to be on, ESPN, do the college football thing.
Be good. He's
he can go be on SEC Saturdays. I'm happy for him, honestly. Maybe he can go back to the Mets. They can maybe use an outfielder. But, his time came and it went. And I think all of us are kind of happier for it other than the Tebow fans out there.
Well, I mean, and I said yesterday, I was like, oh, he's like 30. He was 34. Like, he just turned 30. Man, he almost got fired on his birthday, man. His birthday was August 14th. Oh, that's brutal, man. Urban could have let him get through a couple of more games, but he's 34, man. And the reality is, it's I can't even imagine, bro, like trying to, we watch these preseason games, we watch NFL, and we're like, oh, this dude sucks. We talk about him being garbage. I played Division II football, right? I had an opportunity to play Division I at Boise State, got into some trouble. I had to go D2 route. But I can only imagine trying to make an NFL roster after switching positions. So the fact that he got on the field, kudos to him. Everybody out there trying to realize their dream. It is not easy, man. Like, I've seen and been around players who were very good in the NFL. And I saw that, like, how good they were compared to me. And those players who were really good in the NFL, I mean, some of them were real, real good, and some of them were just okay. But it's just a completely different level, man. So at 34 years old, trying to make the switch, the likelihood of that happening was slim to none. I mean, he's jacked. He looks good. He's one of the greatest college football players, not quarterbacks, one of the greatest college football players in the history of the game. And he's going to have a job at ESPN, Fox, CBS, wherever he wants to work. Tim Tebow is going to be fine. He says he's grateful for the chance, and that's all you can ask for. But I'm glad we can just move past the Tebow props. And for those of you who bet money on that, shame on you. But it's time to beat the rush.
Wake up! This is Beat the Rush.
Get out of the way, jackass!
All right, it's been a minute, but we are back on the team previews. And dude, it's felt like a long time, but we still have one more team from the NFC East that we have to discuss, and it is the Washington football team. We got to talk about the Washington football team's futures. And We got the graphic on the screen, so they are plus 5,000 to win the Super Bowl, plus 260 to win the division. They were 7-9 last year. Over under win total 8.5. Are they going to get to 9 games? And if you listen to Kevin Adams, this great CEO of this enterprise here at Magic Sports Guy on Twitter, he's got a phenomenal, like I'm telling y'all, I looked at it, he sent it to me. He's like, Ray, you need to check out this sports guide that I do every year. Like, there's a lot of good information in it. He's not bullshitting, man. It is packed full of actionable information. The Magic Sports Guide. Make sure you check that out on ftn.com. But he's got them projected to be 9-8 this season, and I saw something that dropped yesterday about top defenses in the league. It was on NFL.com. I think the football team had like the 5th best team, or projected to be the 5th best defense in the league. So it's all going to come down to this offense and Ryan Fitzpatrick, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin. They bring in Curtis Samuel. They re-upped and gave Logan Thomas a contract extension. It's going to fall on the shoulders of the 40. How old is Ryan Fitzpatrick? 40 or 41? What do you think? How old is Fitz?
I think he's 42.
Fitzpatrick, he's 38, bro. What are we doing?
Woo! Oh, man. We are ageist.
He's spry. He's a young 38. He'll be 39 this season in November. But it's going to fall on the shoulder of Ryan Fitzpatrick and probably the legs of Antonio Gibson. If I'm looking at this Super Bowl champs, I don't think so. Division champs, I'm intrigued, right? Because I do think with that defense and on paper, the way this offense is constructed right now, I like their chances better than the Giants. I like their chances right now better than Philly. It's between Washington and Dallas, plus 100 for the over. So if you believe in Kevin Adams and the Magic Sports Guide, you've got some plus odds there that you can bet. If you think it's the under, minus 120 for the team win total, I'm not sure. I'm not sure either way. I want to see this offense some in the preseason. And I know we got to see a little bit of Gibson, and Terry McLaurin for that matter. This is a tough one for me. This is a tough one for me because if you're asking me right now, my gut says over. My gut says 9 wins. I think Kevin is spot on there. My gut says 9 wins. Conventional wisdom and non-bias probably says 9 wins. But I also think Dallas is going to win a lot of games. And I did not watch the Hard Knocks episode last night. It was kind of dragging ass at the beginning, a little slow, and I fell asleep. But what are your thoughts on these futures for Washington in the NFC East?
I'm intrigued, man. I'm kind of curious to see how they look. But like you said, it's going to come down to Fitzpatrick. And I was actually reading an article by our chief strategy officer, Matthew Friedman, and he was talking about how Fitzpatrick is kind of a long shot MVP, and he was kind of talking about his criteria for MVPs and all the different things you need to have in order to win it. And his biggest thing was like, everyone loves Fitzpatrick. If somehow he even had a spectacular season by his standards, but not necessarily by MVP standards, he could probably be in the running if somehow Washington won 12, 13, 14 games. Not 14 games, it's pretty crazy. But if they won a bunch of games and he threw for a ton of yards, like, he's the kind of guy who could potentially just like win this award playing on a really, really good team. And again, the odds are like plus 10,000 or something. So it's not like he's got these great odds. But it was just funny the way he like laid out the case for Fitzpatrick. In regards to the win total, I think I would probably lean on the over. But again, like even with Kevin, the Magic Sports Guide, not only is it divisional breakdowns right now, but every week for DFS and for betting, Kevin puts it out. It is like a Bible for DFS and betting. It is 10,000, 20,000 words long. You have to check it out, and you have to subscribe to FTN to get this Magic Sports Guide each and every week. But I would lean towards the over because I think that they probably could even win 10 games. I think they have a pretty good chance at that. They have a pretty tough schedule, though. And so we'll see kind of what happens. And they close out the season with, if I'm checking this correctly, 5 straight divisional games.
Damn. Yeah.
5 straight. At home against Dallas, at Philly, at Dallas, versus Philly at home, and then at New York.
Wait, you said, what is it? What's their final 5? Dallas,
home
Philly.
Against Dallas.
Okay.
At Philly, at Dallas,
Damn.
versus Philly at home, and then at New York, like to play the Giants.
So they played Dallas and Philly 4 straight weeks. They played Dallas,
Yes.
Philly 4 straight weeks.
Yes.
Who set that schedule? Who
That's
does that?
crazy.
That's crazy. Well, at least the final game, they'll win that one versus the Giants. I mean, you might as well wrap that up. That's a win. I think it all comes down to the quarterback and his ability to not turn the ball over. Like, as much as we like the Ryan Fitzpatrick experience, the gunslinger, you know what I mean? Like, we like the fact that he just goes out there and plays YOLO ball, doesn't really care about his body, will sacrifice himself. Here's his interception totals over.
No, don't do it.
Like, we're gonna do it. Last year, and we get it, he didn't play full season. 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. 2019 with the Dolphins, 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 13 picks. Bucks, 17 and 12. I really don't count the 2017 season. Didn't play a lot. 7 and 3 with the Jets. 12 and 17. I guess his best statistical season came with the Jets in 2015. 31 touchdowns, 15 picks, 8 interceptions the year before that. 12, 16, 23, 15, 10, 9. I mean, his career, 223 touchdowns, 169 interceptions, right at a career 60% completion percent thrower. Like, I don't even know. I don't even want to say he's good, but he's not bad, right? Like, he's not bad. But because he wore my outfit the other day and he had Deshaun Jackson's Cuban link on with the shirt open, like, I think he gets this cult, like, following allure that he's like something better than what he really is. But what he really is like probably like a really, really, really high-end backup, not an NFL like starter, take your team to the top. I just don't see that. I don't buy it. I'm not buying into that with him. I do think there's going to be a game or two where he goes out there and tosses 3-4 picks in a game and they yank his ass and start Taylor Heineke. Now, I'm not saying Taylor Heineke is the answer as well, but I don't know. And Father Time is undefeated, man. Like, whether it's the NFL, your personal training schedule, whatever it is, Father Time is undefeated. And he's going to be 39 years old this season. And he ain't Tom Brady. I know people will lean and look at Brady and be like, that's the GOAT. Like, he's the greatest to ever do it. I just think he's an average quarterback, man. And Stone said it right here. Fitzpatrick is the embodiment of average. He's average, dude. Like, I get it. Cult following. Seems like a really cool guy. You root for him because of his story from Harvard. Had to claw and scratch his way to these opportunities. And anybody who can stay in the NFL from 2000, he's been in the league since I started college, 2005 to 2020, as an average quarterback that's gotten opportunities to start and play. That's a kudos and testament to him. But I'm not buying him winning an MVP. If he won an MVP, bro, I would do something. There would be some kind of thing that I would give everybody.
Talk to the people. Talk to the people.
I
Come
don't
on. You're
know-
on to something now.
know-
Talk to the people.
I don't
You
know
came.
what I
Okay.
would do.
Okay, hold on. You came for his age. Okay, we both did, to be fair. But you came for his age. You said he was 40. He's 38, turning 39. Then, on top of that, you come for his interceptions. You say, oh, he throws a lot of picks. But now you're saying, well, if he wins MVP, what are you going to do? Talk to the people.
I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
I want something. I want something on the show, on record. Give the people something. What are you going to do?
I don't know, man. You put me on the spot. It's my show. You don't dictate to me what I'm going to do and when I say it and when I'm going to do it. You don't do that. This is my show, all right? I will figure something out if Ryan Fitzpatrick wins NFL MVP. Matter of fact, if he finishes in the top 5 of the MVP voting, we'll figure something out because he ain't going to do that. He's damn sure not going to win MVP, and he's not going to be top 5 in the MVP voting. So if that were to happen, we'll figure out some kind of bet that I have to complete, do, give away, show, perform, dress up, whatever it is, we'll figure it out. If he's top 5 in NFL MVP voting in 2021. Is that fair? Can we compromise there? Can we think about this? Top 5. Is that fair? Because he won't. Like I have no clue. I have no.
Yeah, we're good with top 5. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with top 5.
He's not. All right. Who else are we talking about? So with these futures, who else do we have?
You want McLaurin or Gibson first?
Let's go Gibson, baby. Let's talk AG. Let's talk about Antonio Gibson. All right. 1,025.5 rushing yards for the season, minus 111. Season receiving yards, 350.5, minus 112. Gibson's dope, man. And we're hearing everything about them wanting to use him in this Christian McCaffrey role, his increased usage in the receiving game. So he's looking at, roughly, 1,375 yards, 1,376 on the season. Offensive Player of the Year odds, plus 5,000. I think I like the over on his rushing yards and the over on his receiving yards. I think he's going to be a big part of this offense. Yeah, if they're going to win 9 games this season, if they're going to contend for a division title, it's going to be on the legs and the back of their stud running back, Antonio Gibson. I really, really like these numbers. I don't like the odds, right? Because, he's favored to hit that. I don't like the money that you have to put up in order to win. But, again, those of you who are watching this for fantasy purposes, if I'm bullish on both of these numbers, then Antonio Gibson should be in for a rock-solid season. I feel good about his overs on both of these prop bets for Antonio Gibson. Christian McCaffrey light? Maybe, man. Maybe. I like it. Where are you at?
Yeah, like you said, Kyle Allen kind of said it last night or yesterday in a little interview saying that they're kind of he sees what's coming along, and he was actually there when Christian McCaffrey really started to ascend, right, in Carolina. So he kind of saw that whole transition take place. So for him to say that, it probably holds a little bit more weight than it does for somebody else because he's seen the process happen for both players. Now, you're touching on the rushing yards. I don't want to say it's too many, but I am much more bullish on the receiving yards. I understand people loved J.D. McKissick last year. He was kind of the fantasy darling. He had like 111 targets. But that's actually where Gibson really excels, right? He is that receiving back. He did that at Memphis. He showed that even in the NFL. He just didn't get that many opportunities. But I think as a rusher, that's where we think he probably has more room to grow, more upside over the long term. But as a receiver, he's good to go. I think that 350 number is pretty soft for Gibson. I think he can do it pretty easy. I could see him getting all the way to 500 receiving yards if he saw 70-plus targets a la Christian McCaffrey light in this offense. The 1,000 rushing yards is kind of interesting, but I think they're going to run the ball a lot. And I believe they were bottom 5 last year in pace of play, and we expect Fitzpatrick to really ramp that up this year, get them even to the middle of the pack, and they're probably going to be a much more efficient, better offense, which would be great for Gibson, great for everyone involved, including Terry McLaurin.
So here's my argument for Gibson and why I'm so bullish on the over. Last season in 16 games, he missed 2, right? He missed 2 games completely. And then he had 5 games with less than 10 carries. In one of those games, he only had 2 carries versus Pittsburgh in week 12. So essentially, man, in 7 games, this dude had less than 30 total carries out of the backfield. In 7 games, man. You add on an extra game. You get the fact that he's not going to come out of the gates splitting carries with Peyton Barber and crazy shit like that. I think it's and despite all of that, 7 games, less than 30 total carries, he still finished the season with 795 rushing yards in his first. Like, get this, and this just blows my mind. His first season of his career ever playing full-time running back came in the NFL. First time ever playing probably high school. I mean, he probably played running back in high school, but from college, his first shot at being the guy came in his rookie season of the NFL. Not year 3, not after being on the practice squad for a couple of years, but literally like from day 1, you're an NFL running back. You're going to be a primary ball carrier for us. And he finishes the season 5 yards short of 800 yards. You're telling me that he can't tack on 300 more rushing yards, where in 5 games, that dude had less than 10 carries and he missed 2 total games, adding on an additional game. And it's his second season, increasing the workload. I think he's a lock for over 1,025 yards, man. That's just where I'm at personally. I think he's a lock for that. Love Gibson for that player prop. I love him in fantasy. I just think he's a tremendous talent. But the player that I like even more is Scary Terry, man. Terry McLaurin. That's my dude, man. Terry McLaurin, over under season receiving yard totals, 1,150 and a half. We have him projected at 1,262. The odds on that, minus 112. Don't really like the line. But Terry McLaurin, over under 1,150 yards, Jordan. I know this is your guy too. Where you at, bro?
I love me some Terry McLaurin, man. People who know me, have followed me on Twitter. I am like a big time Terry fan. I have receipts going back to when he was still even before he got drafted. And then for him to be drafted to Washington, we've even talked about it before, how it's just a wide open situation. There's just so much potential opportunity there for him. So I just love Terry this year. But again, that's a high bar. 1150 is a very high bar. They're factoring in, that Fitz YOLO ball mentality. And we'll kind of see what happens with that. But I think I'm fine taking the over. I definitely wouldn't take the under. I could see why someone may want to just stay away from this line. The FTN projection of 1262 is pretty bullish. I think that's a lot of yards. I could see him getting to that 1,300 yard mark. But I think to your point, if Fitz doesn't play every game, that's going to be a bit of a problem, That's going to be a bit of a problem for Terry because we're all projecting all of this, assuming that Fitz plays every game. If he doesn't, and we get Taylor Heineke or we see Kyle Allen, then his yards per game is probably going to be going down a little bit for sure. For me, I like the line, but I think I'm probably going to be staying away from this number personally. I think it's a bet that I'm willing to fade, but I do think if I'm going to pick a side, I'm definitely taking the over because I think he has the ability to do it. It just comes down to whether or not Fitz plays every game, and that's the part I'm not sure about. How do you feel?
Man, I'm with you. I love Terry McLaurin. I mean, I trade for him everywhere in Dynasty. I love him. He's young. He's talented. I mean, we're seeing it, right? 134 targets last year, 87 receptions, 1,118 yards, only 4 touchdowns. But he's just a great wide receiver. I don't like the line, man. Like, I actually think it's like spot on. I can see a world in which he has 1149. You know what I mean? I probably would just stay away because I don't feel good taking the under because of how good he is. But, damn near 1,200 yards, that is a lot. And Logan Thomas's ascension, the fact that they have Curtis Samuel, the fact that they do want to incorporate Antonio Gibson out of the backfield more, and J.D. McKissick is still there. I don't know who their wide receiver 3 is. I think it's Humphreys, Adam Humphreys.
Yeah.
Like the situation around him has improved. I do think he is still the lead guy. I'm not concerned about him leading the team in targets, receptions, yards. Not concerned about any of that. We're just talking about this season, the over-under totals for McLaurin. And, right now at this moment, man, I probably, if I had to go over-under, I'd probably take the under. And that's That's no slight to McLaurin, man. That's no slight to him. And we kind of talked about this yesterday. God, I can't wait till we have this alpha conversation. Best ability sometimes is availability. And so far, McLaurin's been pretty available in his NFL career. So I don't have any fear about him not playing the full 17. Everyone's saying top dog.
Everyone likes the over.
They're all saying smashing the heck out of the over. I just, right now, I mean, shit, he looked good in the preseason game, man. I would probably just wait. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he had 1,300 yards, but it also wouldn't shock me if he had 1,100 on the dot. I just think the line is appropriately placed for McLaurin. I think they did a good job of, scaring people or getting people to get excited to go over, and then he goes under. That's just where I'm at with McLaurin. But I love the talent. Love the receiver. I really just wish Washington, I just wish they had a different quarterback. I thought there was a world in which they moved up for Justin Fields if he was slipping, or there was some talk about even Mac Jones, right? But I see Mr. Smith just asked, you think Logan Thomas was a one-year wonder? Fitz was on and off with his tight end last season. And I think we got a little bit of time we got some time to jump into Logan Thomas, man?
He hit it on the head. That's exactly what I had as my title for this show. One-hit wonder for Logan Thomas. Do we think so? 600 yards, 650 projection. It's tough. It's tough, man. This is a really good line for Logan Thomas because with the addition of Curtis Samuel, with Adam Humphries also getting a lot of glowing reports out of camp saying Fitzpatrick loves him, obviously Terry McLaurin, J.D. McKissick potentially being involved, Antonio Gibson being more involved in the offense. It's tough. I think I'm fine taking the over because I think he still will be used, but it does give me some hesitancy. And even talking about with Terry, that 1150 line was kind of one of the even lines, but then FanDuel has him at 1200. So there are sports books who do have him at 1200 who think he could go over 1200, and that's just where the line lies. With Thomas, it's about 600 for every single book. It's not really a whole lot of variance there, so it's about in lockstep. And I believe last year he had over 800, but he saw over 100 targets.
He only had 670 last year on 110 targets.
See, that's the problem. But again, he will see higher value targets because he's going to get seam routes from Fitz. Fitz hits that ball frequently. Right. And we've seen it with Mike Gesicki, right? He played well with Mike Gesicki as well out in Miami. But it's a tough line. It's one of the lines I'd probably stay away from personally, and I guess I would probably take the over, but it's a tough line right at 600. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I like Logan Thomas. I don't think he's a one-hit wonder. And Stone says any concern about Curtis Samuel and his training camp injuries. I think there's always concern with Curtis Samuel and soft tissue injuries. And that's the issue with Curtis Samuel. When he's on the field getting the ball, he's fantastic. But because of that, right, combined with Fitz is an upgrade over Kyle Allen, Dwayne Haskins, Heineke. And, Alex Smith played, he was serviceable. I mean, 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 67% completion percentage. I mean, he wasn't pushing the ball downfield a lot. Everything that I said about Fitzpatrick, right, like being the embodiment of average, even at that, he's better than what they've had. And I think this is fine. I would probably feel comfortable taking the over. I don't think Logan Thomas is a one-hit wonder, and I don't think Washington thinks he's a one-hit wonder either, given the fact that they just gave him a contract extension. I do think they believe in him, and I think he's going to be a really solid tight end. And it doesn't take a ton to be a productive tight end in the NFL right now, but I think we saw enough from him last season and then early this preseason. He had a couple of nice routes and a nice grab in that first game versus who the hell did they play? The Patriots. So I don't think Logan Thomas is a one-hit wonder. I think these lines for the football team are really, really appropriately placed. And if you are bullish on that team, on Ryan Fitzpatrick in that situation, then I think the over for Gibson, McLaurin, Logan Thomas should be pretty easy bets if you're willing to make that. So that wraps up the NFC East. We're done. We ran through the Giants, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the football team. We are done with the NFC East. We are going to roll into what are we going to go? NFC South? Are we going to go NFC South tomorrow?
NFC South, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little. Who are we doing?
Falcons and Panthers is who we'll try and hit tomorrow.
Falcons and Panthers. So we'll talk a little Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, Matt Ryan, maybe a little Mike Davis. Of course, CMC, Terrace Marshall, all of those guys. So excited about that. Top Dog said, what? We don't get Curtis Samuel over unders? You know what, Top Dog?
Okay, hold up. 700 yards. All right, Ray. So I'll give you the lines right now. So it's 700 yards, which I think is decent. That is receiving yards, by the way. But the number I'm really intrigued by is actually his touchdowns at 4.5. 4.5 receiving touchdowns sounds like a lot for Curtis Samuel. Not to say he can't get 5 touchdowns, but he may see 3 rushing touchdowns and 3 receiving touchdowns, or 2 rushing touchdowns and 4 receiving touchdowns. I can pull up his career stats, but 700 yards and 4.5 touchdowns. How do you feel about those numbers?
I feel nothing right now because we haven't seen him play. I don't feel anything, man. Touchdowns, I like that because the receiving touchdowns, they can do those touch passes. You know what I mean? Like jet motion them across the field, touch pass. It looks like a rush, but it counts as a pass. I can see him getting a couple of those. I actually like the over 4.5. I like the over on the touchdowns.
And he's got juice too.
Yeah, he's got juice. So I do like that. And I just want to say, man, this is really dope. Brand new show, and we got people tuning in from Australia. So, Mr. Smith, all the way in Australia. I don't know what time it is over there, but I'm pretty sure you're not waking up. You're probably getting ready to lay it down. But we appreciate you tuning in from Australia. Thank you for everybody in the comments today. Keep them coming, man. Keep it coming. Keep it engaging. NFC South tomorrow, Falcons, Panthers, and we've got preseason football tomorrow. The Eagles and the Patriots. Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Reagor, maybe a little Devontae Smith, Cam Newton. We'll be back. Wake up with Ray G tomorrow. We out of this thing. Peace.